I'm Eric Hayden.
I'm Nick Mason.
And this is Neon Static. Welcome to episode 14 of Neon Static. I am on take 2 of intro podcasting time for this episode because I just blindsided the hell out of Nick.
Wait, what do you mean? No. We don't edit on this podcast anymore.
That's right. Yes. This is the first time we're trying this.
Exactly. Thank you.
Nick, what's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. I've played an absurd amount of Valheim today.
Good.
So,
Let's dive into that deeper in a moment, I suppose.
yes.
I asked you the wrong question about... Yeah, I should have done the cursory. How are you doing? And you go good.
Oh, I've been great. Just dandy.
Terrible, or whatever the mood is, and then we move on without acknowledging it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's just pretend we did that and then move on to accelerated beta test.
Accelerated Beta Test is the long-forgotten segment where we talk about what we've been up to.
Yeah.
And that's a great time for Nick to tell us about Valheim explicitly and only.
Only. I'm not allowed to tell you about anything else I've been doing. Got it. Valheim, it's a survival game. You play a Viking and you craft stuff, and mostly I build a castle. Well, mostly what I do is gather rocks to put into my castle.
This sounds riveting.
It is way more exciting than it sounds.
I heard that you also spend time in that game finding the armor of your lost dead body and not being able to find it, and then having to go get other friends to help you find it.
Okay, so
This happened recently.
That's not the most depressing part of that story.
Let's bring the audience up to speed.
Yes, so I was out exploring an area that I should not have been in with the low-level gear I was wearing, and I'm trying to skip a tier of crafting so I can just go straight to that sweet silver armor. People know what I'm talking about.
I certainly do.
Yes, exactly. So I was venturing into an area where I should not have been and got eaten by a wolf, and then tried to get back to my body, but I could not find it. The game did kind of teleport me to a completely different landmass, I think in a bug, but anyway. Yeah, the saddest part of all that though is I ran naked to try to get my body back, the old, good old style corpse
Sounds
runs.
Dignified.
Yeah, exactly. And wasn't able to do so because the area where I died actively kills you if you step into it without the right gear on, which all of my gear was sitting too far into that area. And yeah. So I had a friend come and we couldn't find my body, and I was like, well, screw this. But the ultimate humiliation of this story is that I fell down a part of my castle while naked and with no gear whatsoever, and was unable to get myself out. And I had to have a friend come visit my castle and knock down part of it because I was stuck inside this circular tower portion that had no exit.
Oh, God.
So I was just naked, recently dead, just sitting at the bottom of a tower waiting for someone to knock it over so that I could get out.
Can we estimate the grand total of time wasted on this particular dilemma?
That dilemma? I'd say maybe an hour and a half, all told. Not terrible.
It was worth the story, I suppose.
There you go.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
What have you been doing in Netrunner?
I have been playing a lot of Sable. A lot of Sable.
Yeah,
I like Sable. I like start a turn triggers. I like stacking them in a way that makes me feel smart. where I'll be like, oh, I ID the mark before I do this Earthrise draw because the Earthrise is going to trigger Class Act, and I want to make sure that I know which one I'm going after so that like I know what card to put on the bottom and stuff like that.
You do relish in your startup turn triggers. We played this past Wednesday, and we had several turns with you just kind of talking on the other side of the other side of the table for a good minute or two.
Yep.
And then me realizing that like there have been no clicks overturned, and it's gonna be a 6-click turn.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, because the particular
buckle
deck
up, everybody.
particular deck I am playing is a Swift deep dive Sable deck. So Swift can give you a click back, Sable can give you a click back, and the turns get pretty long in the tooth.
They're bonkers.
Overall. Yeah. It's good stuff.
I mean, you're doing very well with Sable. It seems like it's you two have gelled quite nicely.
Yeah, I think it fits how I want to play the game. So it's been fun.
Yep.
How about you? What have you been up to? Have you been brewing anything?
Yeah, I've been brewing. I have been experimenting. I built Grudge Work, which is a deck list that has popped up. I believe it won CBI. It was 15-3. Yeah, first at CBI 2024. Jan Tuno built this deck, and it is I played one game with it before deconstructing it. It was quite cool, but I wanted to try something else, so I had to take it apart. But it's an asset spam kill deck, combo kill deck for super heavy logistics. And I think the main, I don't even know what the main idea is. It's just that the main idea is that kills can come out of nowhere randomly from any direction. There are bladderworts in the deck. There's clearinghouses in the deck that can instantly kill you using reconstruction contracts. So there's three hostile architectures. There's the main econ like hinge piece, as far as I can tell, is the Svidogor excavator. 3 urban renewals, which are always coming back. Angelique Carrera is sniping you. It's just all sorts of nastiness. There's one ASF protocol and CityWorks projects. So yeah, a lot of cool combo things happening in that deck. Nick and I played a game. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot going on there, and I just left an undefended Svidogor up like the entire game.
Right.
And I eventually figured out that I should have killed it like instantly, but
they're expensive to kill too.
They're what, 4 or something
they're
like
4
that?
to trash and 0 to res. So
yeah, 0 to res, and you're never resing them unless they are immediately making you money anyway. So
right, and doing some kind of a nasty trigger. And so I took that deck apart in order to make a fast advanced ob deck, which I think is the Circle of Life deck. That I wish I had all these things. The Circle of Life. No edit. We're gonna leave it in. That was B Blum's podcast, who was recently on Jeff Usengren SC's channel. A couple of times actually. Jeff and B Blum have done some deep dives into ob lately, which are very much worth listening to and watching if you are interested in like the real nitty gritty of ob. Those two are ob fanatics, so it's really cool. This is a seamless launch. That's kind of the big one. Seamless launch, Audacity, like a single Audacity. It's trying to move fast. It's a little rig shooter. It's got Stavkas and
all that other good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like those two decks, and then I've been brewing, and one we'll see tomorrow on stream is a PE deck. And I'm not usually like a PE enjoyer, but I built a deck that features, and I started this as the goal was trying to make replanting a card that would function in a deck. And replanting is a card that says that you can uninstall a card. You pop a card back to hand, and you can install 2 new cards, and it's a double. So you can take like failed traps and put them back down. And I thought, well, PE, why don't we replant a bunch of anemones to get more anemone triggers. And then it went from that to, okay, well, let's do Tucana into anemone so that we can do some scary kill. You know, if they steal an agenda, you pop out an anemone and res it and do 2 more net damage. And then I thought, well, screw the replanting. Let's put in divert power so that after I do that, I can just play divert power, de-res an anemone and re-res it and like do 6 net damage. If I have all 3, that, you know, this is the ultimate combo. If you have all 3 divert powers, you can just go divert, 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 and do 6 net damage if you have 6 cards in hand.
Excellent.
You know, that's the dream. Anyway, we're going to try and stream that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
We played one game of that, and it wasn't like the final version of the deck on Wednesday, and that was a pretty fun. That was like the most fun PE deck I think that I've played. That, you know, we had a good game. So
yeah, I have always liked the idea of PE decks that actually kill people.
Like try to kill them actively.
Yeah, like you're doing things where you are capable of killing them without them just kind of like blundering into a Fuji E protocol or something like that. Fuji E asset protection. I got it crossed with Umakata protocol, but
it's
asset retrieval. Dang.
That's right. That's right. We're pretty close.
Anyway, we got there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like the idea of a more active PE, but a lot of them just end up being kind of grindery. You know, I'm going to put out all these 1-point agendas. You come get them. And then just every time you steal something, you're losing so much tempo from the damage and all that the PE list eventually gets ahead, or even worse, gets into a position where you just can't afford to steal anything anymore because you are out of cards.
Yeah.
And not a huge fan of those. I really like active kill decks though. And this is a neat little, like a fusion of the two. It definitely has a lot of pings and like not the card ping, but you know, 1 damage,
it could
1 or
have
2
a
damage
ping.
Hits. Yeah, I don't think you need a ping.
I could put a ping in there, and then you can use divert power to get a tag, and then you could do mindscaping for a damage.
Yeah, 1 damage mindscaping.
1 damage.
Ooh,
Yeah.
got him.
Listen, cards are interacting, and my brain is happy. The other deck that I built is one that's based on. It is not based on. It is a carbon copy, but I've been chatting with Andre about a deck that he built on stream. It's an Arasana World Tree deck.
Yeah,
that is like a 63 card deck. And like the influence spending and like the particulars of what the deck actually contains in it are very variable. You can put the kitchen sink into this deck and it would still be like doing the same idea. It's just like what kind of valuable, what do you find valuable in like a 1 of resource or a 1 of piece of hardware that you want to fetch?
Yeah.
And it's a blast. I've played it in paper twice now. One a bad version and one that is the much better version. I think that's a turbine, big rig assembly machine. But it also has a singleton knob curie, a singleton what is the class act, and a singleton imp, and like so you're getting infinite imp like from wherever you want.
Right.
Got to try it out at Captain Con. Actually, I just got back from a weekend away at Captain Con with my wife and with Johnny and his wife and a couple other friends, and spent the weekend playing mostly board games there, but at some point met up with some Netrunner players that were from the area back in the before times. And
the FFG era.
Yes, the FFG era. So there's Brian P. and Jeremiah. So if you guys are listening, hi. I played a couple games with Brian P. and we had some great games, including one with the Arasana deck against a PE that eventually he won, but it was just a blast to go like, hey, and I'm going to go grab a Knob Curie by trashing my Flame Out.
Yep.
And then the next turn, go install a Slap Vindle with Arasana and then trash it with World Tree on success to go get my Imp just in time to charge it with the Knob Curie and then trash a card, and it's like, it's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of cool like kick flips and stuff in that deck. And I imagine it gets better the more you know exactly what's in it. Like,
I think so.
The more you learn that list.
It was peak shaper bullshit. It was like,
yep.
I had a turn where I had like 6 different triggers, and it was pretty glorious.
Yeah.
And then I lost the game. So, it was on theme.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's what's been going on over here. I should say, for the sake of people listening, when we say we're doing a live stream tomorrow, that will be February 5th, Monday, February 5th. We're going to do a live stream. I'm hoping to get this out tonight. The night we're recording, Sunday the 4th. And now that I've said that, it has to happen.
Wow. Yeah, that's true, because you can't edit this out. So
I've lost the ability. The next segment that we're going to do really quickly is Anonymous Tip. This is going to be a brief segment, but this is where we get, talk about listener feedback. And after our last podcast episode, we actually got a lot of feedback from people about the discussion we had about CBI, kind of the bad time, like I didn't have as much fun as I wanted to. Online events maybe aren't my jam, et cetera, et cetera. And I got a handful of people saying, like, I kind of had a similar experience with CBI, so I commiserate with it. It's sort of refreshing to hear a little bit of like realism. Like, you don't need to be totally like positive all the time, and that's okay. It's okay to talk about a bad time. So that, like, I appreciate that, the folks who did say so. And then there was a handful of people who gave suggestions on like how to enjoy that online experience a little better. And so their feedback was like, try to have a group of people who you can, like, between games, like, go and chat with, even if it's just in a Discord channel, like folks in your area. And when this came up in discussion on the Discord server that we're in, I believe in the patron chat, some folks there were like, hey, like at the next big event, it would be kind of neat if you had a space in here for us to like voice chat and be in while the big event's happening. So it's kind of like, even if we're watching on our computer, we do have a small local group of people to talk about things with. And like in that case, if I was playing, I could hop back in there in between rounds and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that'd be cool.
That'd be neat. The other one that people said was like, were you voice chatting with your opponents when you played? And I said no, because I was afraid of giving away information in like the tone of my voice or something. But who am I kidding? I think really, why was I taking myself that seriously? I think, first of all, but I agree. It probably would have made it a lot more fun as far as me missing that social aspect, that I could have talked with opponents and like, gotten a bit more of a personal feel instead of just kind of clicking at the cold keyboard. Clicking at the keyboard.
Yeah. No, I buy that. It's honestly something that I never really do when I'm playing online, like just jumping into a group chat with the person, even in like tournaments where, they are findable on Discord or something like that. But
right. You and I do when we play.
Yeah. Yeah. And it adds a lot, I think. But
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll try those things. The other thing where people were like, play in person with other people that are playing in the tournament. And I was like, well, next time we'll get Nick to get an invite.
Yeah. 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 Just gotta get myself an invite. Gotta play better. Maybe Sable will carry me.
I think you're gonna do it. I think that's all of the little precursor segments. Yes?
Yes.
Let's dive into the devs. On this episode of Neon Static, we're going to talk about our Netrunner wish list. So I kind of thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about. The topic is, what are the things that we would like to see in Netrunner that aren't there right now, that we feel like they're missing? And this can be as specific as like, I have this idea for a card, or this kind of thing that used to be in the game isn't there anymore, or this is something I've always wanted to see in the game, but I haven't. And now I'm coming with a more of a background into the game, into the old game, than Nick did.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember a lot of specifics from like, let's say pre Flashpoint. I don't remember a whole lot. I remember some of the bad highlights like Museum of History, and I actually really wasn't playing in the Faust era and things like that, but I do know some of the older stuff. But I'm not going to be calling back to specific cards besides one. There's one card.
Well,
and I haven't seen Nick's list, or we haven't compared notes.
Yeah. So let me start off with something that's probably controversial.
Ooh.
Yeah. I want an alternate win con for runner.
Okay, we're going to have a lot of crossover, I think.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of my ideas revolve around alternate win cons.
And specifically, I don't count milling out the corp as an alternate win con. A, because mill decks are just not fun for anyone, in my opinion.
Well, they're fun for the one person.
No, I don't even think they're fun to play as the person who's milling the other person.
Okay.
Like the goal with the mill deck is to just sit there and be uninteractive while your opponent loses cards. Like this game has more options than most, I think, to force you to interact by, the corp being able to put out threats and things like that you as the runner who's trying to mill then need to go deal with, or you can design cards so that all of the mill is like a card like Chestushka. You could tie it all to running so that you still have to go do the thing that you would otherwise be doing. But I just it doesn't feel good to me as a alternate win con. And most of the time when it comes up, it's actually more of a loss condition for the corp,
for the other player.
Yeah, somebody who's drawing aggressively through their deck, and then all of a sudden it's crap, I'm out of cards, I need to do something here to get the win here before I kill myself with draw. But and I honestly have no idea what this would look like, so I'm interested to hear your ideas for alternate win cons, because you do still want it to be interactive, but the part that I don't like is the randomness on the runner side. And obviously there's ways you can control that in a certain sense. But sometimes you do the deep dive and you don't see an agenda, right? When the odds are that you probably should. So some of that stuff, it's a card game. It's already fairly random just on draws and everything like that. But then adding to it that your win condition is somewhat random in terms of what you're accessing and all that, that all kind of feels strange. The other thing that I'd like is a different approach to that an alternate win con could bring is a different approach to building a runner deck. This might be my inexperience with the game, but I feel like a lot of runner decks come down to you have an econ, you have a way to get into things, and you have some form of multi-access.
Yeah.
And
the equation is pretty, it's pretty rigid.
Right. And you can do those things in different ways, but some of your econ can be run based, or, your multi-access can be in the form of sabotage or Stargate or something like that. But, ultimately it's still, you're just trying to access a bunch of cards all at once and steal the agendas. I'd like for there to be something that adds a new avenue that the runner can explore, that maybe you don't have to have any sort of multi-access, right? You can just be a deck that runs a bunch and does something with each successful run, or something along those lines.
So I think what you're saying is exactly why people loved the mini factions so much, because they presented three. Was it three? I don't know if it was really three. They presented a few different ways to play the game. They were completely different. Apex played the game in a fundamentally different way than all the other runners. And that's why people loved Apex so much, even though it was shit. Like I tried so hard to make Apex a good thing and it never really happened. But like, you know, the fact that like the whole econ gets turned on its head, you're taking damage to break things, you're discarding cards, you're installing them face down and then maybe flipping them face up and generating all sorts of nightmarish rules questions. But that, and like Atom, where the multi-axis wasn't really the same. It was targeted. Like I get to see, I have all these restrictions and I get to see where the agenda is when it's in the right spot, when I can get it and decide when to strike, right. And not just like play a numbers game of I need to make X amount of accesses to statistically see the things that I want. And,
right.
I just need the money to make that many accesses. And so I think that's why people really love the mini factions so much. And I agree with you. I feel like lately when I'm building runner decks, my question is, how do I make twinning work in this deck? Like, or like, is this a deep deck or a twinning deck? And if it's not, like, how am I actually going to win the game? Because those are the two like really good ways to do it right now. Right. And this is a question that's come up over and over again over the course of the game, as things start to like feel they're new and fresh for a little while, they start to feel stale, and then a new idea comes out for how WinCon can change, especially with runner, I think. What I would like to see for runners, and it might turn into a WinCon, but I would like to see more installables that feel like hacking, like Time Bomb is a good example. Like you get into a central server, you can plant a time bomb. I would love to see more stuff like that maybe turns into a WinCon. Like maybe, and I don't know how you would balance it. You would have to obviously, you'd have to figure out the right numbers. But like maybe you have a card that can go into, you can put 6 of in your deck or something. And each time you get into a server, you can, rather than access cards, install this untrashable thing, or like a thing that takes 3 purges to trash over or something like that. And if you can install all 6 across 6 different servers or something like that, or obviously that wouldn't work necessarily if they don't create a new server, but whatever. Something where it's like if you can get in and put enough of these things in, then you win the game, or it turns into a certain number of agenda points or something. Right. I think that would be really neat.
Well, I'm, even just thinking about that, I mean, Time Bomb right now is literally a time bomb. You plant it, you wait long enough, and it goes off. But it'd be interesting if there were things that, might, like I was saying, reward a bunch of runs that don't really have any other effect. Like, say you, on success, you can attach this card to a server. Every time you breach that server, instead of breaching, you can put a power counter on it, and when it gets to X power counters, some big thing happens, like a big sabotage, right. Or it, like I still want like an APOC effect in the game.
I didn't start with it, but the top of my list is big flashy events like Apocalypse.
Yes.
I miss Apocalypse so much because it was it was the great equalizer when it came to asset spam decks, first of all. Mm-hmm. It put a serious hampering on asset spam, and I don't love asset spam. I don't. It's like the mind. Like this is my hot take. I do like. It's funny because I'm sitting here saying I kind of want new, different kinds of Netrunner play, but I like Netrunner. If you're giving me asset spam versus like traditional Netrunner, like good old fashioned running servers and breaking ice to find agendas, I much prefer the good old fashioned Netrunner. Right. To asset spam, especially. Okay. And this is another thing. I want asset spam decks to have something else to do other than to flatline me. And I guess technically like they can asset spam out agendas and then maybe just go like advance, score, like a bunch of 3-1s or something, or 3-2s.
Right.
But that's like shell game. And that's not really what I'm talking about. I want them. I guess I really like building something because I was like thinking about this, and maybe there's a suite of cards that says if you get all of these, if you can create X amount of servers or create a bunch of servers, and if the runner can't make X amount of runs or run all of them or something, like play whack-a-mole on the servers or something, while doing some other event, then like, that turns into points or winning or something.
Like you could do something like, sacrifice any number of this asset that you have installed and add each one to your points area worth 1 point, and then remove all others from the game and your deck or something like that. Where like if you can get all three of these, you can get all three of these out there and hidden and they haven't been poked, then, you can blow them up for probably a fair amount of money to res them all and then turn them directly into 3 points,
Sure. And like for each one that the runner steals, you must, I don't know, like they can flip over a random breach 2 servers or something and trash one.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. Some different play patterns would be interesting to explore. Also like playing more with the spatial aspect of Netrunner where take Pinhole, for example, rather than Pinhole being like, I run a server and I can access one card in any server. And I feel like it's a good card. It's a good card. It's obviously it's a good card, but it's a good design. I like it.
Sure.
I'm interested in something that's like run a server and instead of, Onyx on success, instead of breaching that server, you may breach and access all the cards in the adjacent 2 servers or something like that.
Yeah, no. So that was something that I was thinking about. There was a lot of stuff I played a very little bit of Keyforge. And that game like actually had a set order for, if you're summoning a new creature, it has to go on like the end of your line somewhere. And sequencing out your plays and sequencing out your summons and stuff was really important there. And with a game like this that has such a big spatial element to like the board, like the board is like so well defined when most people are playing, at least on the corp side. The fact that it doesn't really get used is kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's funny. It's been used somewhat sometimes, and we're going to get all sorts of people pointing us to cards that do exactly the things that we're saying. I know.
Gotcha.
And like one example of the thing that I just said is the card called Slipstream. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Slipstream, excuse me, is a card. It's a criminal resource. It's a virtual resource, costs 0 credits to install it. And it says whenever you pass a rezzed piece of ice, you may trash this resource. If you do, choose one piece of ice protecting a central server in the same position as the passed ice. Move to that ice and approach it. You may jack out. So you can if there's like 10 ice on central and 1 ice on a remote, you can pass it and then you're approaching the innermost ice on that central.
Yep.
Which is a neat trick. And that card's currently legal and very occasionally will get played. Very, very occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be a real Glacier meta to make that. Like, that's actually interesting in how specific it is. I mean, you have to pass a rezzed piece of ice. Like, if they're really glaciering up the centrals and, then are they spending that much on defending their, random assets? Are they going to have ice on them at all? Is it going to be rezzed? All that kind of stuff. That's interesting.
Slipstream got played like as a one of in a handful of decks at Worlds 2022. Like 3 or 4 decks that I can tell.
Yeah.
Because it's just such an out of left field kind of thing that can really get you in. I think it's popular in like a Zaya decks and things like that. If you can access that central and get a bunch of money.
For sure.
But yeah, spatial stuff. I don't know what other ideas. I don't have any other specific examples of ideas for like messing with spatial stuff. There's been a bunch of cards, and there are cards that let you like swap ice. Dow lets you swap ice, and a couple other shaper cards that let you do that. But yeah, that's one thing. Spatial. Actually, that's all of the things that I had on my wish list. Do you have any other things that you want to talk about?
I would like more cards that feel criminally.
Yeah. Okay. This is something that our friend Derek says a lot too.
Yeah,
criminal doesn't feel criminal.
It's like really hard to define, but the way that I've always thought about it is that like the Anarch is going out there and just tanking the hits, right? They are getting hit in the face by whatever ice, but they are saying, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to keep going. And the Shaper is like, armored up before they go into a server, right? They've got their whole rig together. They are big and powerful. They've got turbines and all this other nonsense to make sure that they have the right answer to whatever is coming up. And I like the idea of Prim like as my kind of ideal for it would be sort of a tempo thing where you can, get into a certain number of servers in a game, really without contesting them. But you don't really, you might not have as many tools, or like your breakers are all bad or something like that, where you've got to like keep spending resources to get into servers, but those resources aren't necessarily like credits like they would be for a Shaper with a full rig. They aren't cards or, whatever you might be spending out of Anarch. You're instead like trying to install something to deal with this, to sneak your way past the ice, to sneak your way in or get some additional benefit. It's one of the reasons that I was really excited for Mercury, because their ability really felt kind of the way it was obviously conceived of was that you're going to be bypassing a ton of ice, and you let some things fire, just like in, any good heist movie, there's always like that part where, you think you're caught and then you manage to get your way out of it or something,
It turns out we planned for this the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, in Ocean's 11, when like George Clooney gets caught by the casino folks and then gets the crap beat out of him. But like, that's actually part of the plan.
Spoilers for Ocean's 11 not watcher people.
It's old. I mean, come on.
Are you about to ask limitations on spoilers for a movie?
No. By the time you get to the second sequel, I think they're on a third sequel. Are they doing one of those? Anyway.
Should we talk about Rosebud next?
What? I was about to be like, wait, is there a Netrunner card called Rosebud? I've never heard of this.
There should be. I'm talking about Citizen Kane.
Yes. No, that part I understood eventually. But sometimes you just say words and you're like, oh yeah, that's discombobulate. That's an effect from the forever ago cycle or whatever that I don't know.
That's true. I do that sometimes. Actually, so what you were just describing reminded me, let me, as an example of what you're saying, reminded me of a very criminal, maybe perhaps the most criminal card, which is unregistered Smith & Wesson 35. It was in the Honor and Profit cycle, and it was a 1 credit piece of hardware. It's a gun.
Wait, so this is not an Arkham card?
No.
That feels like the name of an Arkham card.
I know, right? It does. No, it's a gun. It's a Netrunner. It's a crim card. It's 3 influence. And it says, use this hardware only if you've made a successful run on HQ this turn. So if you have your gun and you go to HQ,
oh, I love
even though it's like, you hacked in, but you went there.
Sure.
You can go click, trash 1 resed, Bioroid, clone, executive, or sysop in the root of a remote server. So it's kind of like a pinhole threading.
Oh, I love it.
But you just go shoot them.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's extremely good.
Right. And it's a bit of a, what I'm talking about as far as installing, although like installing cards after having gotten in, that it does that too. That card scratches that itch a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess let's bring back the Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
That's
more guns.
I want.
I like that, we got like laser pointers as weapons and things, but like,
yeah,
give me like a high powered sniper rifle. Come on.
I mean, you do have Angelique, so.
You know what? You're right.
you have that.
Yeah, it's already
And we
been
have
done.
guns. Yeah.
Yep.
And we have end of the line, which is guns, like.
Well, all right. Give me some guns that aren't revolver, because that's a program.
Yeah.
It's just sort of themed after a gun in Runner.
Yeah.
What I'm saying.
Okay.
Like that's one of the other things is that like Crim feels like it is more like a mix between real space and net space too, where like you're using some hacking, but you're using it to like physically get into a place.
Right.
Whereas,
yeah. That's always been like Inside Job. Have you looked at the original art of Inside Job?
No.
If you like pull it up on Netrunner DB, it's a guy, and it took me the longest time to realize this, but the core set printing is a guy sitting in a urinal, like he's sitting in not a urinal, in a stall, in a toilet, like on a toilet, hacking. So he like literally
Snuck
is inside
into
the building.
HQ.
Yeah, he's in there.
That's great.
In the bathroom,
Yep.
in a stall hacking. He's inside the building. So
That's perfect.
that is very much the theme for sure. I like a lot of the original core set, FFG core set Netrunner cards for Crim embodied this pretty well as far as like forged activation orders and emergency shutdown and things like that, where it feels very Ocean's 11 kind of thing, where you're like kind of screwing with the infrastructure a bit.
Yep.
So more stuff like that would be fun. I don't know if it has to just be D-Res, right? But
No, I mean, not
like
like doesn't have to be D-Res, doesn't even have to be trashing, but like I like the idea of bypassing stuff. Just as like a Crim thing. It being limited is good. Costing resources is good, but just the idea that you're getting dressed up like one of the janitors or something and sneaking your way into the server room before you start hacking. I love that.
Yeah, their main identity right now does seem extremely tied to like run events. Like you make a successful run and then you can do stuff. And when you start to get locked out, it feels pretty bad.
Right.
So.
That's another thing is that like, if you're going to have everything tied to successful runs, then, and I mean, Crim does have a fair number of ways to like get into places, between, like you said, Inside Job, Arrest Vibrato, Boomerang, that kind of thing, or even stuff like Sneak Door Beta. But it just doesn't, it doesn't feel like I want it to. And I don't know exactly how to describe how I want it to feel, but I want to feel more like I'm outwitting the corp.
Yeah.
When I get that access. So
wreaking havoc, not wrecking, or do both. You can wreck and wreak havoc.
Sure. If you wreck havoc, are you in fact creating order?
Yeah, you're wrecking all the havoc that could be otherwise wreaked.
That's it.
You got anything else?
No, that's it. That's all I got. Those are
that's a tidy 45 minutes, Nick.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. We've been chatting for a little bit here.
That's true.
Well, I guess that's a wrap for episode 14 of Neon Static. We've been your host, Eric.
And Nick.
And if you want to get in touch with us about anything we've said during the course of this podcast, we can be reached by email at neonstaticpod@gmail.com. We're also neonstaticpod on Instagram and Mastodon. We are no longer on Twitter. Our handles on Discord are Canister and Gullbrander. A link to the New Hampshire Netrunners Discord will be in the show notes, as always, where you can find us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, YouTube. I'm not going to like say the link to the YouTube, Google it. We'll just, or there's a link. No one's going to go type youtube.com/@neonstaticpod.
That's fair.
If you do, kudos. To catch the videos and live streams we create. That's why we do that stuff. And if you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Our Patreon is Neon Static. Patreon.com/neonstatic. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Always run with your eyes closed.
Always run with your eyes closed. The music is going too fast.